has their annual sporting clay shoot. Has anybody ever done that before? That's a lot of fun. Starts at 10 o'clock. No experience necessary. In fact, the first time I did it is the best time I ever shot. So yeah, we got a sign-up board out front. Be great to see you. The day after that, we've got our Easter event. Last year, we had about 150 kids show up. It's a great time. This year's theme is pirates. There's going to be face painters. So bring your kids out. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's the Sunday before Easter. Anybody in here not a member of the American Legion? I'm going to recruit you real quick. Hey, if you want to be a member of the largest American Legion post in Kansas, please see me after the event. I'd love to talk to you about it. You do not have to be a veteran to be a member of the American Legion. We've got the auxiliary sons and, of course, the riders. So I'd love to talk to you about it. Follow us on Facebook, please, if you're on Facebook. We post a lot of stuff out there, as well as F.I.S.H. Follow their Facebook page. We would appreciate it. I think that's all I'm going to talk about. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Jeremiah for the pledge and prayer.
All right, if you'll bow your heads. Dear Lord, we give thanks for the veterans who have served our nation, offering their courage and sacrifice for our freedoms. We pray for healing for those who bear the wounds of war, both physical and emotional, and for their families who have supported them. We ask for peace in our communities and in the world, and for the unity among all people. May we honor their service and strive to create a society where all are valued and respected. Amen. Please stand and remove your hats. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Welcome, everyone. I'm your Masters of Ceremony tonight. I'm so glad you're here. All right, so we know there's a lot of first-timers. Let me see your hands one more time. Thank you all for being here. We do something really fun to start things off, and this is what it is. All right. I want to hear from the Army. Army. I like that. Marine Corps. Oh, it's really close, really close. All right. Navy. Air Force. Coast Guard. Coast Guard. Ron Wilkinson, who are you? Okay. Space Force. Space Force. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. One of these days we are going to have him here. It might be you. Why not? It could be you, Eagle Scout, every Scout. I mean, all right, so F.I.S.H, Friends and Service Heroes, nonprofit based in Olathe, Kansas, 501c3. F.I.S.H started out with food, because I'm in the food industry, started out feeding our troops, and the thing has just gone crazy. So I'm going to run through a couple of slides, because it seems like it's been a year since we've been here. Huh? Oh, yeah, there you are. So our 6th annual hog hunt. Everything about F.I.S.H is different. We don't do anything like anybody else. This is a bunch of guys, warriors, getting together for some fellowship, and we go hog hunting as a crew. There's no bows, there's no rifles. It's K-bars, knives only. Was it amazing? Was it healing? Did it make you feel like I am a warrior? Because that's who you guys are that have raised your right hand to serve our country. Don't ever forget that, Jeremiah. You're a warrior. A big warrior. Big warrior protecting our Kansas City Chiefs, too, by the way. All right, next slide, please. All right, so this is, again, we started out with food. This was, Justin, our 49th Heroes Dinner. Justin was in charge. We went all the way to Springfield, Missouri, because we went fishing. We heard about a unit that was going to be deploying to some place, I think there's sand. And so we got with General Bradley Peasley, and we showed up. FRG, so Family Readiness Group, didn't have to make phone calls, bring pizza, bring salad, bring cookies. F.I.S.H brought it all. So that was pretty cool. And there were, Justin, how many? 150 families that we took care of? Amazing. Next slide, please. All right, so this is the 41st annual Snake Parade. I'd never heard of it. We were contacted. You got to be a part of this. It's the biggest parade in Kansas City. And I thought, sure, they weren't lying. There was like 30,000 people there. It was amazing. So there we are. There's a couple of our service dogs in training right here. Reggie, a sailor, Admiral. That guy, an amazing cook too. So we did a cook-off. He did really good. So here we are. Nacho Chief is right down front. And I don't know who that masked man is, but I think he just walked in the door. But anyway, we have a quick little video I think that we can play because Channel 5 picked us up on the news. It was really cool. Sound? They called him Nacho Libre. It's actually Nacho Chief. But Amy and Kenton in the back were in the back of the truck. That was really cool.
Okay, this right here is Friends in Service of Heroes. They said too often our veterans are left wondering if their service mattered, and Friends in Service of Heroes believes their service is as important today as when they wore the nation's uniform. Their mission is to thank them, recognize them and their families, and educate the public to do the same. Thank you so much for all your service.
Yeah. Very cool. Very, very cool. I thought that was just, thank you to all the volunteers that came out for that. So that was awesome. So as Dan's getting this next one, I'm going to run through a few more slides here. All right, so Iwo Jima, 80th anniversary, that's coming up. Our dear friend, World War II Marine Jerry Ingram, who was a tank commander at age 16 and a half, actually set up the memorial at Fort Leavenworth. So that's on the 28th from 10 to 11 a.m. If you wish to attend, you can't miss it. As soon as you drive in, it's right there on the right-hand side. We'll have a lot of Marines there. It's a beautiful, moving event. Next slide, please. All right, our golf tournament. This is our 12th annual F.I.S.H Combat Golf Tournament. Again, nothing about us is normal. You're going to be wearing some body armor to tee off. We'll have grenades to throw. We'll have golf ball cannons, all kinds of stuff. We're going to have chiefs probably going to be there in uniform yelling and screaming at people. There'll be soldiers there. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. We're going to be giving also another service dog. That'll be service dog number 45. Get signed up because it always fills up. All right, Justin, come on up here real quick. Give us a minute on our first ever camp out.
Awesome. So for those of you who don't know, our long-term vision is to have a heroes camp. So this right here, this is going to be kind of like our, not necessarily our trial run, but this is just kind of our concept and what we want to do with bringing out everyone together. Like Paul said, we started in 2011 feeding the soldiers, troops, heroes. So we're going to be doing that here, but we're going to be taking it a step further. We're going to be feeding your souls. So we want everyone to come out. There's a QR code. You can't get it from up here, but it is back on the table. Sign up, register, and bring your families. That's what this is about. Because like the hog hunt, I mean, you can't take your kids on the hog hunt. That might get a little messy, unless you want to use them as bait. But next year. But no. But I want this to be like a family-centered event. So you can go out there, unplug, put your bare feet to the earth, and just kind of relax, hang out there, and just really come together with the common goal of just healing, relaxation. There's going to be s'mores. We're going to have campfires, nature trails, just all sorts of great stuff. And there's an Olympic-sized pool out there. So it's about 2 hours from here. It's up just north of St. Joe on the QR code back there on the table. If you scan that, go in there. I've listed out I don't know how many more details I could possibly add to this. I even gave you a checklist and a reminder list of bring sunscreen and bug spray. So I was pretty inclusive on that list of everything that you might need. Yeah, bring your own tent. If you do, I will say that I have a very, very limited number of cabins available. So for those of you who might need like additional like resources, such as like if accessibility issues, these cabins are ADA accessible. If you're of the age where if you lay on the ground, you might not ever get back up, let me know, and I can work a cabin sleeping arrangement for you. So if not, you're on the ground, bring a tent and sleeping bag.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you. And it's the first 60 people, right, Justin? The first 60. All right. So, again, so many times people forget about the families of those that have served our country. We never want to do that. So, get it together. All right, next slide. So, another thing that we do every third Wednesday is our F.I.S.H. Fireside. And Jeremiah graciously has been in charge of it for a long time. Huh? Oh, first and third Wednesday of the month. And we do this in Gardner at Fireside Cigars. And, you know, the secret sauce, if you guys haven't figured it out, the secret sauce of everything that F.I.S.H. does is the relationship that we have with the Lord. Man, we don't get real preachy, but that is the secret sauce. Always will be. Next slide, please. All right, this is going to be fun. April 5th, we have a veteran that owns Z&M Winery out of Lawrence. He's going to have an incredible, this is like his 5th or 6th time he's doing it. Get signed up for that. So the speaker series, this is our way of connecting with the community, our way of getting vets off the couch, out of the house, and engaged. And we have some amazing speakers that we've had over the years. Doc, Ernie, so many folks that are in this, some in this room. But next month we have a young lady coming. This is so important that we talk about the suicides. For those of you that don't know, here in Kansas City, last week alone, there were 2 Marines, young Marines that took their lives. And, you know, we got to put a stop to this somehow. I mean, we try and go fishing, catch these people, but we can't catch them all without your help. And so we decided, Justin and Doc, we're going to get this young lady out here and talk about what no one wants to talk about, and that's suicide. Find ways to mitigate that. Next slide. So, all right, I'm really excited about this. I know you guys, I hope no one showed up in February to hear Tom share his story because it was freezing. We had to cancel it. But in this one, it's not going to be third Thursday. It's the second Thursday, May 8th, 7 p.m. My friend Tom, who's in the room, is going to be sharing his story, and it's going to be powerful. You don't want to miss this one. You don't want to miss it. And the reason why we moved it to the second Thursday in May is because there's some people that are planning on attending that they can only attend on that second week in May, and they are people that are very special to Tom. And so I hope they make it. I hope you make it and share this with all your friends. You really want me to do that? All right. So Lieutenant General John Tulin, if any of you know that name. And also another Silver Star Marine by the name of Brian Zickifus. And also another colonel, maybe 2 colonels, Tom. That's enough. I got to keep some secrets. All right. That got you guys all rocking and rolling. Let me tell you about tonight's speaker, Danan Hughes. So Danan was born and raised in Bayonne, New Jersey. Bayonne High School, graduate 1984 to 1988. He's excelled in 3 sports, earned a scholarship to the University of Iowa to play both baseball and football, and you could have played basketball too. Don't lie. Professional sports career, played 6 years in the NFL with the Kansas City Chiefs, serving 4 years as team captain, originally drafted by the Milwaukee Brewers in the 3rd round as a junior in high school, played professional baseball for 2 years before being drafted by the Chiefs in 1993. He retired from the NFL in 1999. Danan, after retiring, transitioned into the home mortgage industry. Immediately after retiring from the NFL, started at the Bank of America before moving to the U.S. Bank Home Mortgage, where he spent 19 years as both a mortgage loan originator and sales manager, consistently ranking in the top 1% of the company. He quietly and currently works at the Community America Credit Union as a senior business development officer and home mortgage loan originator. He's married to his godly, beautiful wife, Tiffany for over 29 years. 29 years, baby. I saw you walk in. With 5 amazing children, Jessica, Joey, Taryn, Savi, Talon, and his proud grandfather of not 3, but 4 brand new Mila.
Yep.
And Darian, and Daxton. And as far as his broadcasting and media, he's a color analyst for the Kansas City Chiefs radio broadcast, host of Players Only radio show Thursday nights on 610 Sports, chief analyst on Spectrum Sports, the only color analyst covering all 3 major college sports, baseball, football, and basketball for the Big Ten Network, ESPN, and Fox Sports. And he's also the director, president of the Kansas City Chiefs Ambassador, a group of former Kansas City Chiefs players who remain engaged with the organization and participate in charitable initiatives throughout the city, Kansas City, and Missouri. Ladies and gentlemen, Danan Hughes, number 83.
Appreciate you, brother. How's everybody doing this evening? All right, so I saw something that just came to my mind when I was sitting down, when I noticed this up here, one nation, one hero, one at a time. I want to bring you a little bit back. So I see a Hawkeye here. Are there any other Hawkeye fans in here? Dang. All right, good night, y'all. No, I see a Hawkeye here, and Hayden Fry was my coach at the University of Iowa. And anytime we had a speaker or anything that was celebrated, instead of having a clap, we had one clap. So it brought to my mind when I saw one nation, one hero, one at a time. I want to bring everybody in. This is the first time I've ever done this. Honestly, first time I've ever done this outside of the Hawkeye locker room is just one clap. And how he used to kick it off was, let's give one for Danan, and then everybody would clap at once. All right, so I want to practice this because I want to bring it into, I want to bring this into life here in Kansas City. All right, so for F.I.S.H, for this incredible charity, for this incredible vision, for this incredible service, let's give one to F.I.S.H. Wow, you guys are quick. You guys are good. You guys are quick. How about let's give one for Paul? All right, let's give one for all of the service members that have served this great country, that even have gone through some tough times and have tapped into the right resources to get their minds right, to get their lives right, to get back on track. Let's give one to them. All right, all right. Thank you so much for having me this evening. I really appreciate it. I mentioned Paul because I don't know if there's a more passionate, persistent guy that I've ever known than Paul, because he taps into text messages with me, calls, he reaches out. It's good games, bad games, whatever's going on, whatever it's come to his mind, he thinks about me, and I'm sure I'm not the only person that he thinks of. So I think it's really cool to have people in your life that after one, I think maybe 2 visits, like I feel like I'm one of his brothers. I feel like I am one of his family members, and I think that is such a great characteristic, such a great trait to have in this community and in our lives. I mean, we need each other. No matter what we're doing in our lives, no matter how independent we may feel like we are, we need each other. And we need people to give to us, and we need people that we can lean on, we can glean from, that can uplift us at times, because we all go through different things, different struggles, different challenges in our lives. So I love Paul for that. I don't think I've ever gotten a chance to tell him that, but I'm telling him now on this stage, brother, you are a treasure. You are a treasure. Let's give one more for Paul. All right, all right. Again, so I know that was a lengthy, it was a lot that he had ironed out in my bio. Again, my name is Danan Hughes. I was born and raised in Bayonne, New Jersey. Bayonne is actually pretty popular on the military side. We had the MOTB, Military Ocean Terminal, in my hometown. It's been named in several movies. One of the #1 movie, my favorite movie, Men of Honor. If you remember, that was actually shot in Bayonne, and the terminal that he was on was Bayonne's terminal. So I'm very familiar with the military. My son, my oldest son, Joey, served in the Army National Guard and actually over in Afghanistan. He's back here in the Kansas City area, and that is something that Paul and I have discussed previously as well, and I'll get to that later. We'll also have some Q&A, so hold on to your questions. I always tell people there's no such thing as a dumb question except the one you keep to yourself. All right, so again, Danan Hughes, born and raised in New Jersey. I found my way after high school to the Midwest and haven't found my way away from it, which is cool. It's definitely been a blessing to be here in Kansas City after going to the University of Iowa, coming straight down here 4.5 hours from Iowa City and settling here. My wife is from New Jersey. I don't think we would have ever thought we would have been away from New Jersey, but it just tells you about how embracing this kingdom has been for us. Since 1993, being drafted here in the 7th round. I think that was the 7th round. Yeah, 7th round. And yeah, it's all a fog now. In the 7th round. Yeah, right? A blind squirrel catches a nut. That's right. Coming here, I had played 2 years of professional baseball. I was drafted as a junior in college from the University of Iowa in the same draft, the same day. Within an hour or so from my claim to fame from baseball, as I was drafted within the hour of Derek Jeter, Jason Giambi, and then, a few minutes later, I was drafted in the 3rd round by the Milwaukee Brewers. Baseball is my favorite love. It's my first love. It still is my favorite game. There was a transition time where I realized I probably needed to go play football. I was playing center field in Helena, Montana, in the minors for Milwaukee Brewers. This transition had started to happen previously when at the University of Iowa, and you're playing football in front of 75,000 people at Iowa, and then you go travel to Ohio State and you're playing in front of 100,000 at the University of Michigan. And then the spring comes and baseball is played at the University of Iowa, and when they scrape the snow off the field, you're actually allowed to play baseball, and it's 20, 30 degrees, and there's 10, 20 people in the stands. You can imagine, the difference, the dichotomy that you had to deal with. And as much as I love baseball, I found myself, after having that football fever and that elation of the fans and all the highlights that you saw, because I was fortunate and blessed to play on great teams and have some God-given ability, that you hear the roars of the crowd, and then there is no crowd in baseball. But I still had all that energy and that football energy stirred up. And at the time I thought, you know what, this might be the time that I either need to go to counseling or I need to go play football full time, is when I was in center field. And as you know, baseball can be a little contentious at times, and guys get hit by pitches, or guys pimp a home run or anything like that. And I'm screaming from center field to tell my pitcher to hit people, because I wanted to get some action. So I said, either I need to go to counseling because I got a little screw loose, or I need to go play football full time. So ultimately, when the Chiefs drafted me, I made the toughest decision of my life in giving up the game that I loved, the first game that I ever played, and I picked up football later in junior high because we didn't have fall baseball, and I had nothing to do. And I don't know if anybody's in here had parents like mine. My parents would ask 2 questions when I was sitting in the house. Do you have something to do? Do you want me to find something for you to do? That ultimately meant that I needed to go outside and do something until the streetlights came on. So there was no baseball, so I had to, my friends were playing football, so I went and tried this football thing. And lo and behold, God had a plan through that, and it allowed me to propel through high school, a college education, got my degree at the University of Iowa after a long time, and I'll get to that in a second, and then propelled into professional football. It's been a true blessing. If I could I have tattoos on my arms, but if I could put a tattoo on my head, I've always said, it's amazing how powerful God is. Like, I think about just those statements that I made. Bayonne, New Jersey, kid from the inner city. I grew up 5 minutes from New York City. And then to see how the progression has happened to the point of being blessed with 5 beautiful children, 4 incredible grandchildren, an amazing and beautiful wife, We will be celebrating our 30th anniversary this June. I will say, and this is on camera, I am the one, Grace will tell you as well, I am the one that remembers dates. June 27th, 1995, this June will be 30 years, and I have been truly blessed, and she is the most patient person, not just woman, the most patient person that I know to have to deal with me. But God is amazing, and to think about that path, right? Let's give one to Tiffany. All right, there you go. Grace, there you go, see? Yeah, God has been definitely an integral force in my life. And it's amazing how powerful God is, because we all go through things, and even through the highlights on the screen, through the highlights that I'm speaking, there's been some tough times. There's been some steps, some missteps. There's been some issues. There's been some challenges in my marriage, in my home, in my family, with my kids, with my son Joey, who served in the military. And if you don't have that force, if you don't have that central figure that you are aiming towards, that you're leaning on, what do you have? I mean, there's only but so much friends can do. There's only but so much that companion can be. There's only but so much someone else can offer. But having that central force of a relationship with Christ, with a relationship with God, is something definitely that propels us each and every day. Amen. Right? It's amazing how powerful God is. And I think back, and although the highlights, and somebody put that together for me, and the pictures, and you can Google, and all that, all those highlights come together, like I know what was going on deep down inside. I know what was going on behind the scenes. And I know where God has delivered me from and delivered my family from. My brother Kendall is here, another former chief, another number 83 that's here as well. Not many people know. Oh, let's give one to Kendall. All right. Not many people know that Kendall, prior to coming to Kansas City, Kendall and I were teammates at the New Orleans Saints. That was the last stop. I didn't play a regular season game there, so I don't say I played with the Saints, but he was a central figure on that team, and obviously had an amazingly long career with multiple organizations. I believe it's just Pittsburgh and Kansas City and the Saints, right? Kendall has been great serving in the community as well. Paul had mentioned that I am the president, director of the Chiefs Ambassadors. Well, the vice president is Kendall Gatman. So we are close, and he will be taking over next year as the president as I roll out, and he does amazing things around and public speaking as well. So it's always great to see another brother, Chiefs brother here, but more than just a Chiefs brother. But it's amazing how powerful God is, because I've been through some challenges, as we all have. And those are not necessarily put on highlights and not put in bios. But we all have gone through challenges. And I think because when we are enamored by Chiefs players or by professional athletes, maybe even not even just athletes, but CEOs and other professions, we don't necessarily dig deep. And I would challenge you, one of the challenges I'll leave with you today is touch bases with people. You never know where people are. Paul talked about the suicide rate, and I'm sure, I would hope that those people would have had somebody, and maybe they didn't have that person that they could tap into. So I know that's a humbling kind of mindset. Sometimes you feel like you might be intruding on somebody's personal space or their personal life, but I can tell you for sure that it's necessary. So don't ever hesitate. Don't ever be that person that wishes you would have done something, that wishes you would have said something, that wishes you would have pulled somebody aside, had coffee with them, invited them over for dinner. You can't control their responses. All you can control is your actions. So challenge right there, number one, is to reach out to other people. As I mentioned, with 5 kids, one son, Joey, who served in the military, we adopted Joey when he was 7 years old from Catholic Charity Services. He had been through some challenges in his life, abandonment he had dealt with in his life. He's a biracial kid and really never identified with either side, his mother's side or his father's side, and had some challenges. And that presented some challenges for us in raising him. We brought him up as a loving child. But we always knew that there was that abandonment, and just think about, like, we tend to think that when kids are older, they're moldable, but we minimize when they're small, when they're tiny babies. I just had my 4th grandbaby who's, gosh, what would this be, 4 months old, right? Is that from December 19th? I'm not a mathematician. So yeah, 4 months old, 3 months old, right? And you just see the differences just in that short period of time. And we think, well, once they get to grade school, or once they get to 5, 6, 7 years old, that's when they're able to be molded, and that's when they can latch on, and that's whatever direction you have or you want to teach or instill in their life happens. Well, I can tell you from experience that by the time Joey was 7 years old, he had lived a lifetime of experiences like a teenager. And so, and not necessarily recognizing that, we weren't a foster family. We didn't ever have adopted other kids, so we didn't know what we didn't know. But we just tried to love on him, tried to encourage him, tried to lift him up and raise him just like our other kids. At that time, we had one older daughter. We had a son. We had a daughter. So we had Jessica. We had Torin. We had Savvy. Then we adopted Joey, and then we had Talon. And originally we thought we were going to adopt a kid that was kind of in between Torin and Savvy, who are 18 months apart, and we thought those 2 kids would help raise that one kid up by being that same age. But it's amazing how powerful God is, because as we went through the foster adopt program, which was classes for 17 weeks, and this is while I was playing with the Chiefs. My first name is Robert. A lot of times I go by Robert in the public, especially when I'm doing something like that, because I just didn't want it to be about Danan Hughes, the Chiefs player. But quickly they realized that I wasn't Robert Hughes and I was Danan Hughes, and that only lasted for a few classes. But as we went through the classes, one amazing thing about learning to foster adopt was that the teacher was a person who had adopted and fostered, I believe at the time had 14 kids in her house. A combination of those who she fostered and then ultimately adopted, and then other kids that were fostered. And Joey was the only non-white kid in the house. He was biracial, black and white. And every class she would come up and speak about different instances that she was dealing with each of the kids. Some were handicapped, some had other mental, emotional problems, etc., and those were the topics of the day. And it's amazing how powerful God is, because he brought Joey in our life based on them realizing that I wasn't just Robert Hughes, I was Danan Hughes, number 83, and I was still in the middle of my football career. And she asked me, she's like, hey, we have this charity fundraiser picnic. Can you come out and sign some autographs? And we bring out other families that are fostering kids, that have adopted kids, that support Catholic charity services, etc. And I said, sure, that's a no-brainer. So I sat out there. It was at the park that's kind of down by the plaza. I don't know what the name of that park is. So I sat at the table, and Joey stood right behind me the whole time. I had never met him. He was there amongst 50, 60 kids, and he stood right behind me, kind of cat-a-corner. And, you know, my awareness was there, so I kept looking back, and I'm signing autographs for kids and taking pictures, having fun, throwing football, and he just stood there. And every once in a while, I would say, hey, you're okay? He's like, I'm fine. And again, I'd look back a few minutes later, and it wasn't like he was staring intently, but he was just residing right around me. So we finished the picnic. The teacher comes back. She's like, look, we take our kids who we've adopted, we take them on vacation every year. And it's only the adopted kids, the only household kids that we take. And we try to lean on people to watch the kids while we're gone. And we said, you know, she's like, Joey, we're raising him, but we don't know all about his culture. We don't know anything, like, the hair, how to get a haircut, all the things that you in the African American culture deal with. Would you mind kind of being a mentor to him? Sure, no problem. We got 3 other kids. What's another one in the house? They're already eating us out of house and home anyway. What's another one, right? And he came along, and we went to a Royals game, brought all the kids to the Royals game, and when we just were praying about, okay, well, we're thinking about this kid that's going to be sandwiched between Torin and Savvy. And at that point, I want to say they were 2 and 4. And it's amazing how powerful God is, because after that weekend, we called the gal and we was like, yeah, Joey's going to stay. We realized that that's what God wanted. That even though in our minds we had a plan, God had a bigger plan. And that was to have him as part of our family. For me to sit here and say, you know what, this is like some Lifetime movie and everything, it was kumbaya for the rest of our lives, that would be a lie. It was not. It was some challenges when he was a teenager, when he was older, and even now to this day, he's been he has a separation that he likes to be on his own, and we haven't seen him in a while. And it's funny because last night, like, I am a man. I'm raising men. I left my house. I still have a great relationship with my family. And there's a part of me that's like, men got to figure it out. Men have to figure out life. But then every once in a while, it comes over me like, that's my son. And I still got to check on him. And so last night, I'm driving home in the rain. And I'm like, let me do some digging. I'm kind of good on social media and plugging it around and prodding around, and I find one of his friends, text him, hey, we haven't heard from Joey in a while. You still keep in contact? He's like, yeah, Joey is with me. He lives with me. All is good. That's all I needed to know as a dad, as a man. He's figuring life out. As long as he knows that there's a central force, that we are where we are, we love him, we're willing to support him. We'll embrace him, just like the Bible, just like the prodigal son. When he comes home, he will be embraced. But it's amazing how powerful God is, because if you listen to the Chiefs radio as we go to multiple Super Bowls, as you listen maybe on Players Only, maybe you watch baseball and you hear my voice. Some people say I got a face for radio. That's not a cool. Don't like that's not a compliment, right? You hear the upbeat, the up-tempo voice, and you don't know about the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. You don't know what's revealed behind the curtains. We go through challenges in our life. I just want to be an encouragement. When Paul asked me to be a part of this series, the first things I always think about is, yeah, we could sit up here and talk about the Chiefs and get Chiefs questions and all that stuff, and that's great, but I want to dig a little deeper. I want to challenge a little harder. I want to be the person that is not just standing up here all smiles and grins and thinking everything's rosy and great. Yeah, we're fortunate to have a great organization that's doing amazing things, and we're entertained on every well, actually, I usually say every Sunday and Monday and occasional Thursday, but this last season, we played darn near every day of the week, except for Tuesday, but we're fortunate to be able to be entertained. Kendall and I entertained you all, and because of your passion for the Kansas City Chiefs, because of our service as entertainers for you, we have a platform that we have for the rest of our lives. And we have a responsibility in that. And we take that to heart. Doesn't mean that consumes us, doesn't mean that's all we have to offer, but we have a responsibility to use the platform for good and to stand up and to be able to shout when there's great things that are happening, like what's happening here with F.I.S.H, what's happening with our service members, with the relationship, or I should say the respect that we have for anybody that serves this country. It's pretty darn cool, and we should never take that for granted. But we all go through things, and I felt like I wanted to share that. I know I can talk about me all day because I'm going to be 55 years old. Dang, that sound like my stomach in the evenings. 55 years old this December, and I've been through a lot personally. I can talk about the sports, and I want to take on questions, But I also wanted to challenge you. I also wanted to let you know there was something on my heart that I felt like this was the perfect platform to share about my son, Joey. And I know that with everyone's connections here with our armed forces and our servicemen, policemen, firemen, etc., that we have somebody that I'm sure we can reach out to, somebody that might be challenged, somebody that might be struggling. So I just want to encourage you to be that force in that person's life, and to recognize that we're all blessed no matter what. My father, who will be 80 years old next February, we talk to him. They call him Pop Pop. The kids do, and the grandkids. And we start trying to plan out. Well, you're going to come out here in May, God willing. What do you want to do for your birthday? Well, I'm just thinking about tomorrow. That's my father. He's thinking about every day, and it's a genuine kind of mindset for him. But it also speaks to the rest of us that maybe that's something that we need to adopt just a little bit, thinking about tomorrow, and maybe valuing each day as they come, as opposed to thinking long term. We lost a brother today, Dan Israel, who has been a staple with the Chiefs Radio Network, definitely a brother of mine, and Kendall. I got to see him last week. Kendall got to see him in these last days as well, and he is a huge loss, not minimally to the Chiefs Radio Network, but in a huge fashion to our lives as a brother. And that was like a ringing bell in my head to value today, to not take things for granted. And I don't know, I can't tell you that what sparked me to reach out and try to track down my son Joey was something that maybe subconsciously that was the case. But it also speaks to me, and hopefully it speaks to you, to value today, value the relationships you have, and value the impact that you could have on other people's lives, the empathy that you can share with other people. We are going through some of the dark times in our country. The empathy we should have with each other, from a race, from sex, from political, all of that stuff. There's an empathy, there's a conversation to be had. I've always said, because I'm very vocal, I'm very receptive, but I'm very vocal on multiple topics. Doesn't mean I'm a professional on any of them, but I'm willing to have the conversation. And one of the lost arts of our society has been walking away, agreeing to disagree. Just that. But there's also a part of that that's been lost is the empathy and the hearing of other people and hearing of the perspectives that they bring. And not necessarily in a way to change what's been ingrained in each of us for our lives, but maybe just to hear the perspective and understand. My pastor once said we need to seek to understand instead of being understood, or being focused on being understood. Just a tidbit to throw out there that maybe could sharpen us. As the Bible says, as iron sharpens iron, we should sharpen one another. So with that being said, I don't consider myself a professional speaker. So therefore, I always ask when I have these opportunities and I have this platform, is there going to be time for Q&A? Because I don't feel like I'm a professional speaker, even though some people may say different because I'm on national radio and TV, I always feel like there are times where more is gathered when people ask questions, when people maybe have come in here with something on their mind, something on their heart, whether it's football related or not. So at this time, I know Paul had mentioned we're going to take a few minutes for some Q&A. Again, there's no such thing as a dumb question. I have a perspective that relates to me, that relates to life, that relates to our walk on this earth, and hopefully you'll gain some food from it. So any questions?
Got a microphone.
All right, I got an easy yes or no question for you. I think I speak on behalf of the Fish family here, but Fish would welcome Joey with open arms, and we would love to meet him. Would you please tell him about us?
That has already been done, and actually one of the first conversations I had with Paul, I came here, I don't remember, it was a Christmas? Christmas with the Truce a couple of years ago. Noah Gray was here, Kendall was here, I think Chris Penn and a couple other Chiefs ambassadors came here as well, and that was a conversation I had with Paul back then because I had recognized some of the challenges Joey was going through. So the seed was planted. The seed, that's not the only seed. That's not the only seed that will be planted going forward. I know when I came to know Christ as my Savior, there were multiple seeds that were planted leading up to that. So I am a product of persistency. That is not I'm not Vanilla Ice. I'm not a one-hit wonder. All right? So there's going to be multiple seeds that are going to continue to be planted.
Danan, tell me about when we crossed the line of departure to Baghdad and all this in Afghanistan and the 20 years that we were at war. How did you feel from an entertainer's perspective, sir?
That's a very unique question. I feel like there's a level of necessity, and then there's a level of this is because we have always done it this way. And I feel like there's some, and this is just my layman's perspective, there's somewhere in between. To say that we are a country in this world consistently has war, I find some challenges with that. At the same time, I respect when we have to be elsewhere and we have to protect our country. I think there's nothing that should or has to remain for eternity. And my concern is that we as a country at times, I feel like, I wonder if there's anybody in those rooms that are saying, like, do we still need to fill in the blank? Like, is this still necessary? Fill in the blank. And I'm hoping and I'm praying that we have those forces and those voices that are strong enough, whatever powers that are there, Republican, Democrat, whatever, whatever years that happen, that there will be those voices that will be like, is it enough? Are we done yet? And still be able to keep the freedoms that we have. So I'm one of those people that I don't know if that makes me a pragmatic. I don't know if that makes me a realist, or maybe I'm not a realist, but that's something that I have hope for, especially with having a son that served. I don't know if I would have had that same perspective, but when I went down to Jackson, when my son graduated, and then when he was telling us where he was going, I know that perspective popped up. Because, again, another statement I remember listening to a pastor, Tony Evans, a very popular pastor in Texas. He had said, things don't become real until they become personal. Yeah, it ain't in Bayonne no more. Things don't become real until they become personal. I think we can probably apply a lot of things that have happened in our lives that maybe we had one perspective, and when something happened and it became personal, our perspective might have shifted just a bit. Yes?
I have a personal question, and then I have a Chiefs question.
Okay.
Okay, how old were you, and what brought you to Christ?
So I was, again, because I'm a person that remembers the dates and stuff like that. You know,
approximately.
It was actually July. It was actually July 27th, 1997. I was in training camp. If that date, obviously, you're in training camp. I was in my 5th year with the NFL. I was going through some marital issues. We were up in River Falls. And as a man, and the way I was raised, whenever you have conflict, you should meet the conflict where it is. You should be there. And I couldn't. I was in training camp. I had to hold my job. I had to try to keep my job when the Chiefs kept drafting receiver after receiver after receiver throughout my career. That's a whole nother story. That's a counseling session in itself. They never were satisfied with me. No. And challenges with my wife, with our marriage and our home, something that I valued, but I couldn't be there in the face to deal with it. And I remember, and the personality that you see right here is the personality I was as a football player. I was the guy that brought in the newspaper every day, that brought in a few extra McGriddles and stuff like that for guys to eat, and I would sit in my locker. I'd be the first one in there, and I was the jokester. I would laugh at him. Remember Jason Whitlock and those guys had all those crazy columns back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
So when Derek Thomas would come in the locker room, I'm like, DT, did you see what Jason wrote about you? You stink, I guess, right? So I'd be that guy. And I'd be the guy that would, any kids in here? Okay. All right. Okay. Don't do this. This is the part that you close your ears on, all right? So I'd be the practical joke guy that would put shaving cream in people's helmets. And, one of the coolest tricks, this is the part don't listen to. You take the shoelaces and you take a razor, Kendall will notice, take a razor, you don't cut the shoelace all the way. You cut it just enough so when they pull it, that it pops. So I'd be that guy.
Oh, God.
And during that training camp, because of the issues that I was having in my marriage and in my home here, I kind of went into a shell. I wore a hoodie, put on my headphones, didn't talk to anybody. And at that point, I remember, like I said, seeds had been planted. I was a very, very superstitious person. And that was part of the baseball. Everybody knows baseball players are probably the most superstitious of all athletes. And I was a baseball guy, so I was very superstitious. And what was happening, because I was going through these challenges, I kind of went into a shell. And some of the things that I would normally do, the light I was in the locker room, I had become a little dark. And but because I would go to chapel services, I would go to our Bible studies, not because I was wanting to learn about the Word of God. It was because I had a few good catches. I had a great game. I had a touchdown. And because that became part of my superstition, I would never miss that. And it's amazing how powerful God is, because he was using, even though I was going not necessarily for the right reasons, the seeds were planted all throughout that process, that for years, going back to college, I was going to these, and I recognized that in that time when I couldn't be hands-on, I couldn't be face-to-face with my wife, we couldn't iron things out in that manner, I had to lean on something else. And that's where God came in, and that's where I accepted Christ. I accepted Christ in the middle of the football field, during practice, in a scrimmage against the Minnesota Vikings. And the guy, there was a guy on the other team named Corey Fuller, who was a very good defensive back, but he was dirty, and I was dirty too. I'll be honest, I was a dirty football player. And I hated him, he hated me. We had played against each other multiple times. And because I was going through this stuff, I was carrying myself on the football field. And Kendall will tell you, if you walk around and you're not social or you're not bouncy, you look like you're cocky, right? You look like you're arrogant. I wasn't the type of player that warranted arrogance. During that time, I was a blue-collar guy. And he said something to me that normally would start a fight, because I was a fighter too. And he said, who do you think you are? Or you think and then they kind of put a hit on me. He's like, we're going to take care of you today. You walking around here like you're all that. And instead of fighting like I normally would have, because of where I was mentally, I said, and this is where God worked, God said, and I said, you don't know what I'm going through. And then I walked back to the huddle. And he came to me, and he said, I heard what you said. Let me share how Christ has worked in my life. And I'm still a work in progress, but let me share. And in the middle of practice, he on defense and I on offense, in the middle of the field, and that's where he witnessed to me, and I accepted Christ.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's amazing how powerful God is.
Thank you. Now for the Chiefs question.
All right. Wasn't my fault.
Okay. Now, I think you came into the Chiefs in '93 when Montana and
Yes.
Craig were kind of going back and forth. And you also played during the times of Bono and...
If you mention the names, if you
I'm
mention
sorry.
one word,
And-
if you mention one more name, then...
How about Rich Gannon?
Okay, that was a good one.
Okay, I'll skip.
Thought you were gonna-
I'll skip Elvis.
Oh, yeah. I thought you
So-
were going to say that Lynn Elliott. No.
So, who was your favorite quarterback?
Ooh, it's
Yeah.
a tough one.
Yeah,
I tell you what, I loved all those quarterbacks.
but who was your favorite?
So I'll
You
give
love them all.
So because I'm a color analyst, I got to give you the scouting report, my personal scouting report for each guy. All right. First of all, Elvis, I played against him in college. He was at Michigan, I was at Iowa. We played against each other for 4 years. So I knew him, I knew about him prior to that. He was probably the stiffest guy, and not stiff just in stature, but stiffest in, as far as socially and other things. But still a very cool dude. Joe was the coolest dude you would know. I never saw him yell, never heard him yell, never heard him scream, he was, not that we had iPads back then, but he wouldn't have been the guy to slam iPads on the sideline or call anybody out. He was just cool. Anytime he got in the huddle, you just felt like, he was just like, hey guys, all right, Monday Night Miracle. We're playing up again in Denver in 1994. He's like, all right guys, we just got to go down the field. Everybody's like, all right, let's do it. Monday night, it's all right. Rich Gannon, very cool. When he came in, to this day, and it's not to slight Elvis, but everybody in that locker room wanted Rich to start the playoff game and not Elvis. Everybody did. And it was a business decision. We had just signed, now this, morphs the numbers, but back then, if you remember, we had just signed Elvis, 3 years, $18 million, I think. Quarterbacks would, kick that down the street now. And the fear internally, business-wise, was that if Rich, who had a great run to end the season when Elvis was hurt, if Rich goes and we win the playoffs with Rich, what do we do with this contract and with Elvis? And the business side came in and said, you got to start a healthy Elvis. And everybody else wanted Rich. Because we had already beaten the Denver Broncos with Rich at quarterback the second time we played them that year. So that was a tough decision, but Rich was cool. Still to this day, I just did his podcast down at the Super Bowl, talked to him a few times. His wife is great. They still live up in Minnesota. Still a great dude. And then Bono was just a cool dude, a little stiff, but he was cool as well. So I don't have a favorite. All those guys were really just cool. Great memories. Nobody that, I feel like, was a bad teammate or anything close to that. It had to be, I guess it had to be between Bones, and Rich. Thank you. Another question? Anybody?
Yeah, good evening. Thanks for being here, Danan. Really appreciate your speaking tonight.
Thank you.
It's been fabulous. Navy veteran, fellow brother in Christ.
Amen.
What has been, as a public figure, your most difficult part of talking about your testimony or your faith?
I don't feel like there's a very difficult part of that because I am very transparent. I'm just a very transparent person. I live by the code. Don't ask a question you don't want to know the answer to. That's how I was as a parent. That's how I was as a coach. I coached 11 years of travel baseball, very high competitive baseball, and I would tell the parents every single year, don't ask me a question you don't want to know the answer to. I feel like God has blessed me from a not just a speaking perspective, but from a message projection perspective that I feel that people will grasp what I have to say. And I feel like God has blessed me. I mean, I'm an inner city kid from Jersey, but God has blessed me through my paths of all the different communities and different people and walks of life that I've been connected to, going up to the University of Iowa, going to the cornfields of Iowa after being able to stand on my roof and see the Twin Towers. Assortment of flavors of individuals that I have connected with and what sports has done with that I feel like God has developed within me an ability to communicate in a way that people will understand me, that people will respect my perspective, and that my message won't be construed in a different way, whether it's racially, whether it's politically, whether it's maritally, whether it's parentally, any of that. So Therefore, because I recognize that, and it's not a pompous statement by me at all, I recognize that talent that God had given me makes me more transparent and willing to have tough conversations with anybody that's willing to at least sit down and at least have a mindset of the worst thing that can happen at this table, the worst thing that can happen on this platform is that we walk away agreeing to disagree.
Love it. Hey, we were talking about quarterbacks, but isn't it true that you happened to be a backup quarterback at one time for the Chiefs?
Yes, I was the emergency quarterback. Then, I was a quarterback in high school. I was a baseball player, so I had a pretty good arm. And you saw in a couple of the clips where I threw some reverse passes and double passes. That was part of the offense that I was a part of. I think I was 3 for 4 in my career in passing. And the one time they called a penalty on, they said it wasn't a lateral to me. So Bones threw me, we were playing in San Diego. It was 356 double pass. I think that was, yeah. So it was slot left, 356 double pass, and I was the guy that was back here. And he threw it, and the rule is that it has to be a backward pass, right? It has to be a backward pass, not an even pass. And on the video, it looked like it was backwards. I'm going to say it was backwards. They said it was kind of even. I saw a slight tilt to where he threw me the ball, and I was behind him. And then I threw a touchdown pass to Lake Dawson that they called back.
We know you were right.
Thank you. I was waiting for that. What's your name? Mike, let's give one to Mike. There we go.
Any more questions? Right here.
Listening to you on the radio with Mitch Holtis, how much room do you have to give Mitch in the booth?
Well, Kendall can definitely attest to this as well. We get small areas. I will say that everything that you hear from Mitch is genuine. It's not written down, the sayings and the touchdown Kansas City and everything leading up to that is stuff that just comes off his head, which amazes me as well. But
You can't do that on a scorecard in golf.
yeah, right? And so he is genuine with that. The energy is real. But what I realized early on and quickly is that if we both have that energy, we tear this booth up. Like every computer screen will be broken. We would be throwing stuff. So I have to be the straight man. And I remember listening to Kendall. I listened to every game. Prior to me going into the booth, I listened to every game that I was not playing on the radio. I'd walk around the stadium. I'd have an earpiece in with my Walkman. People probably thought I was security, but I was just listening to the broadcast and the great job those guys did, whether it was Lenny or Kendall, because the information was so bountiful. I mean, what you hear on there. But as far as being in the booth, some people now, especially with the cameras in there, I coach, like I said, I coach baseball. I got 5 kids. They'll text me. They're like, "What's wrong with you? Don't you have a pulse?" Like, because I'm just standing there, and Mitch is throwing air punches, and I'm just standing there next to him, like, just waiting for my turn to talk, right? And they're like, "What's wrong with you? Don't you have a pulse? They just scored the game-winning touchdown, game-winning field goal." And I'm like, he's throwing punches. Could I throw punches? We'd be dead in here. Like, so I recognize I have to be the compliment to him, but we have fun with it. It's cool, and it's definitely a blessing that the team plays well. You know, some of the worst experiences were games like the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl in Tampa, and some of those losses because, you know, the energy is not the same. What we want to project to you all as listeners is not the same, but we have to manufacture it because we're recognizing we're speaking to truckers, we're speaking to soccer moms, we're speaking to baseball dads, we're speaking to people, which I know I've gotten a lot of texts and tweets that people mute the TV and listen to us, which we really appreciate that as well, which is really cool to think about that. So we have to bring the energy, and it's fun. There's some creativity that's involved in that, and I've always said I don't see the game better than a fan. I see it differently. I think Kendall can attest to that as well. When we were coached up, Pitt State, Iowa, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, New Orleans, me here in Kansas City, like the game was ingrained in us in a way of dissecting. We watch film more than we practice. We study more than we're actually on the field every single day. So to watch a game, if there was a play on this screen right now, and you did it in real life speed, most fans watch the football. Kendall and I will tell you what all 22 people did on that field, and probably why it was successful or why it failed. That's because it's something that was ingrained in us. So the thing that I love about being in the booth, and even for college baseball, because baseball is my favorite, is I get to bring an aspect of the game to life from my vision that maybe you wouldn't consider as a fan as even a factor. Like, why did this tackle move? Why does this tackle? Why is this play working? What's happening when they break the huddle? Why are the Chiefs one of the top teams at the quickest to break the huddle and get to the line of scrimmage? Why is that important in this offense? Why do you see every time they get to the line of scrimmage, somebody is moving, shifting, or motioning? Why is that? Because that tells what the defense is doing. If somebody moves, usually, somebody moves with Travis Kelce as he's moving, that tells you man-to-man coverage most times. If somebody's not moving, it tells you zone. If somebody's not shifting up towards the line of scrimmage, it might not be a blitz. All of those different things that when you talk about Andy Reid and Matt Nagy and Eric Bieniemy and Peterson, when they were here as offensive coordinators, why all of those intricate details matter in wins and losses and success and failure. It's those little things that I like to bring to life. I like to be able to share that. And the radio does it a great service because we can talk about it while television analysts, and I'm a TV analyst as well for college football, you see it. So sometimes they don't really dissect it as much because you're actually seeing what's happening. While radio, we gotta paint the color so people driving down the road know what's happening. Yes.
All right. You also do basketball, correct?
Yes.
All right. Who you have for your Final Four? And
Lipscomb, Mount St. No, I'm only kidding.
Who are you picking to win it all to?
So I'm one of those pool guys, and I'm one of those multiple bracket guys. So I know there's the people that snub their nose and say, I just do one bracket. I am a multiple bracket guy. So I'm in like 4 pools, and I got like 6 brackets. And most of them have either Duke, St. John's, or Auburn winning. Florida as well. So I'm going with the 1 or 2 seeds to win. But there's a mixture of upsets in there. Like I had McNeese State beating Clemson. I had that one, so I'm proud of that one. I have Oklahoma. Who's Oklahoma? Oklahoma's playing somebody. UConn. I have Oklahoma beating UConn as an upset. So there's a mixture of upsets in there. So.
Any other questions for Danan? One more.
I don't need that. When you came on board with Mitch, did he, and I'm going to hold you with this, you asked the question.
Yeah.
So when you came on board with him, did he like say, look, here's your role, here's my role, don't cross the line?
Absolutely not.
Does he give you carte blanche pretty much?
No. So, well, yes, he does. I answered that prematurely. He gives me carte blanche to do and be what I am. What I recognized, so I actually called Mitch after the announcement was made. I called Mitch and I said, hey, let's have a chat. And I said to him, I said, when Len Dawson was doing it, who was obviously the pinnacle of, he's a Hall of Famer on the football field, in the booth, et cetera. I said, but what I did notice, because I listened to the games, was when you were with Lenny and as his health was deteriorating, it seemed like you were doing more color as well as play-by-play. For those of you that don't know, color analyst and play-by-play are two different positions. Mitch is the play-by-play. I am the color analyst. And sometimes the lines can get blurry. And I recognized, definitely not when Kendall was there, but definitely when he was with Len, that he was doing a little bit of both, or mixing in a little both, because Len's health was deteriorating. So I just wanted to assure him. Now, we had done college basketball together for Missouri Valley Conference. So we had done a few games of college basketball together. So he knew my tone and tempo. I kind of knew his. Obviously listened to all the games for, at this point, 15 plus years while he was broadcasting, because he's been there since '94. So I had known his tone and tempo as well. When they told me that I had the job, we actually went into Dan Israel's basement and did a mock game. So they didn't tell me or him what game we were doing. They just said, come down to the basement, we're going to do a run through. It was like during the summer 5.5 years ago. And they just threw on a game, and I didn't have any prep. And as soon as they threw the game on, it was the Tennessee Titans versus the Chiefs. And it was the first game Patrick Mahomes came back after he had that knee injury against Denver. First game, we were down in Tennessee, and we wound up losing on 4th down at the last play of the game, where he rolled out and really couldn't move, and incomplete pass. And we missed I think the field goal got blocked. And so I had to recall a lot of that game in my head, and then we just went at it right there in the booth, and he did his thing and I did my thing, and Dan was very happy with it, and I think there was an automatic synergy. And I think it helped that we had the conversation beforehand. It also helped that we had done basketball together, so he kind of knew my movements and my tone. And the key thing in the radio is that as much as I want to project, even as you can tell now, when I'm done, or just like normally from a human perspective, when you're having a conversation with somebody, your tone is going down towards the end of the sentence, towards the end of the comment. You might not know it, you might not recognize it, but it is. And the one thing I think that has worked well for us is that he recognizes just when I'm done, and I recognize just when he's done. So when you are listening to the broadcast, if any of you do, very rarely do you ever hear us speak over each other. And that's the synergy that I think is necessary in the radio, is that we recognize when our voices are about to stop, and then in dead space and dead air is the enemy of radio. You don't want to have any dead air. You want to have somebody talking, somebody else talking, we're going to break. Got a commercial, come back. There's no dead space. On television, there can be dead space for plays after, play after play, because you get to you're seeing the stuff that's happening. So your palate is already satisfied because your eyes are seeing the game. So not that Tony Romo ever shuts up, but if Tony Romo ever did shut up, nobody would care, because you get to see the action that's happening. While radio, if we shut up, all you hear is dead space. So we've had that synergy from the beginning.
All right. Oh. Channing had a question.
I don't have questions. I have two things I think you should share with the audience tonight. One, what was one of the things you remember about when you were recruited by the University of Iowa?
Okay.
And Hayden Fry came to your home.
Yep.
What did you see for the first time?
That's fine. That's good. That was the first time I ever saw cowboy boots.
That's right.
Yep. First time I ever saw cowboy boots in life. Nobody where I grew up wore cowboy boots.
And then the second, Iowa played the University of Minnesota at Kinnick Stadium.
1991.
And there was a
snow angel.
Snowstorm anyway. And the crowd was throwing snowballs at the referees. You made a touchdown, and what did you do?
I did a snow angel. And I'm surprised with all the antics I had at college that to this day, and this is 35 years later, to this day, anytime I go into the state of Iowa, just into any part of Des Moines, Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, if I go anywhere And people, if somebody knows me or recognizes me, they always bring that up. To this day. And of all the stupid things that I did, and dances and touchdowns and all that, the snow angel is what has lived on. So that's pretty cool.
You miss giving the kids a shout out during halftime talking. Are they doing that?
Oh, no, you're talking about the wave after the first quarter? They were not doing that. They built that tower for the hospital well after I graduated. But I tell you what, whoever was the marketing person that brought that to life, they should be working for like the government or Google or whatever. They should have all the money in the world, because that's the best marketing that the University of Iowa could have ever had. And it's so impressive for anybody that doesn't know. At the end of the first quarter at the University of Iowa football games at home, there's a hospital that's directly over kind of the 40-yard line on the opposing side of the field. And they built the tower up so that it's the kids unit that can look down and watch the games. So Kirk Ferentz and whoever the marketing person is that still have never found out who it was, brought it to life that at the end of the first quarter, they would wave to the kids and the kids would wave back. That's impressive. The most impressive thing is that you got the other team to do it. So every team that comes in, both teams at the end of the first quarter literally turn around and wave at the kids in the kids' hospital. That's the coolest, to me, that's the coolest marketing that any business, any company, definitely any sports team could ever bring to life. So yeah, that was not a factor when I was there, but like to watch Michigan and Ohio State and some of the hated rivals have to do that or feel like they're going to do that is pretty cool. Yeah, very cool.
Okay, it's getting late.
Yeah.
I am so grateful that you joined us. Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, brother.
Danan, Hughes. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I tell you, we love the 83s, man. We love 83s. We love Noah Gray, who also is a quarterback,
83.
too.
Yep.
Yeah. So you can't leave without being part of the Fish family, so you're taking home that. We're going to get one for Joey, too, because we're not done with Joey.
Yeah, amen.
We're not done with him.
Appreciate
But hopefully you'll stick around, because if you haven't noticed, he's wearing some big old rings. Big old rings, so some folks might want to have a picture with you.
I was hoping for another one this year.
Oh, yeah. So was that guy and that guy right there. But we're so grateful that you came out and shared your story.
Oh, thank you, brother.
So powerful.
Thank
So
you
we're so grateful for you.
Appreciate it. Anytime.
I'll keep harassing you during the games and everything.
I appreciate it, yeah. Keep shooting me those text messages.
You got it. So now comes a real fun part of the event. This is a raffle. So if you're a veteran and you've not received a raffle ticket, please hold your hand up so we can get you one. There's one right there. And from here, the couple, I'm going to let Justin, you're going to take it from here, buddy. So I'm going to walk you down. Let's get out of the way.
Raffle guy. How many of them? Mama say, Mama sa, Mama kusa.
There you go.